I'm Michelle Borel. It's brand new. Welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and like the YouTube channel. Thank you. Right there, below. Yeah. Joining me today inside Brand New, we have Marlon Ambrose, a dear friend of mine. We're going to be talking about the principles of financial success as well as forward thinking. And on my side of things, we're going to be dealing with the abundance mentality as well as the habits of the wealthy and identifying great ideas. So that's coming up inside Brand New. Marlon, welcome. Great to have you inside Brand New.
Thank you, Michelle. Always been a pleasure. Great to be here, and great. I guess glad to happy to add my flavor to the things in terms of finance, and hope that the listeners could actually get some impact from it. Yeah, in the everyday and daily life.
That they're going to get a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, so long as you speak from the heart and you share the experiences that you have, I know that they're going to get a whole wealth of knowledge that they'll be able to use to bring abundance into their life.
Agree.
But I feel like music gladdens the soul, you know, and part of being able to attract abundance, happiness, joy, right? So I want you all to be happy. And Marlon and I, we were going through something today when we were preparing for this, and I'm going to share it with you all because I just love what Marlon is bringing for you all. It's really good stuff. So what hit me today, like boom, because I mean, we're talking about abundance and wisdom, you know? So Proverbs 19:8, it says to acquire wisdom is to love yourself. To acquire wisdom is to love yourself. To acquire wisdom is to love yourself, you know? So when I was finished with Marlon, we were talking during the week, and I was like, I'm gonna have people looking at their mirrors and loving themselves. And then we were there like, nah, not do that. And then he said, Michelle, go with it. If you feel to do that, go with it. I say, I'm doing that. Right? So that being the case, I'm going to share with you all now some music that I find is a pick-me-up. And regardless of what is going on in the news, what anybody tells us about anybody, I believe inside each person, there's a candle, right? So what wrong somebody does, that's not my focus. My focus is on what right they did. And what right they did, their wrong don't cancel out that right? So I like Bill Cosby. And I'm playing for you all a song from Bill Cosby before we officially start, right? So here it goes. We're gonna have some fun. Woo! Love me some Bill Cosby, you know, and what I love in that is if you listen to the entire song, because it's 7 minutes of yumminess, right? He says, I love myself better than I love myself, you know, and as we started with loving yourself, right? Wisdom. What does wisdom mean? Love yourself. Love yourself. And that's the words of our Heavenly Father. With that now, I'm introducing you to Marlon Ambrose. He is a very good friend of mine. So I take this opportunity to welcome you to Brand New. It is our 4th session of Brand New, where we work on developing your personal brand. So we have with us today, Marlon Ambrose. And Marlon has over 12 years of experience in accounting and auditing within the energy, financial services, real estate, manufacturing, retail, and distribution industries. Marlon is a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA, and a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Trinidad and Tobago, ICATT. He is a passionate entrepreneur and the founder of Sincere Selections Clothing Company. He is also a director of Innovix Consulting Limited and an occasional motivational speaker for many. Well, I'm Michelle Borel, and I'm happy to be with you here today. I'm a broadcaster, author, as well as a marketer and newly found TikToker. Just saying. But you have to enjoy yourself, right? So today, here's what we're going to be discussing. We will be discussing abundance mentality. What is abundance? How do you attract abundance in your life? Also, we would be looking at the principles of financial success. What are these principles? How do you budget? So Marlon is going to be heading that discussion. But today, however, it's going to have a more conversational tone because you're going to hear Marlon in on the topics that I may be leading, and I'll be in on experience in terms of financial success and creating abundance that we wish to share with you. You know, iron sharpening iron, as we would see. And also we look at the habits of the wealthy. Think about forward thinking. Also identifying great ideas. How do you feel about it? What are others saying? So in that, in thinking of what is abundance, this is something that I found quite powerful. You see, when we think of abundance, we usually think of money, finances, but it's even more than that. In the words of Bashar, it stated abundance is the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Abundance is the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. So the abundance mentality, there's 4 steps that I want us to remember in terms of the abundant mentality that I think are quite essential for us to ensure that we keep in mind. And in terms of that abundance mentality, the 4 step that you can always go through in your mind would be, firstly, think. So the first thing that we would need to focus on would be think. Thoughts become things. Then in terms of speaking, we shape our world with our words. Remember that. And feeling. We did speak about emotions being visitors. Treat them well while they stay. However, if they're a visitor, it means that you have control of your home. You have control of your house. You have control of your temple. So that means if you have control, then you can call upon these emotions when needed. And that is why I found it was a very important component to have Auntie Penny, Penelope Spencer, join us when we spoke about acting the part. And she shared with you as an actress how she was able to draw on certain emotions and bring them on at will. So we have to be able to control our emotions, recognize them, acknowledge them, but know when we need now to call upon certain emotions within us to fuel these thoughts, fuel these words, and again, we solidify it and make it manifest with our actions. You know, they say, think it, act it, and you will become it. They did not lie when they said that. Act it, and you will become it. If you remember Muhammad Ali, way before he was the greatest, he was saying he was the greatest.
So basically, Michelle, what you're saying is it starts with a mindset.
Thought. Correct. It starts with your mind, and then you have to have the words to further build upon it. You have to have the emotions to fuel it, and you have to have the action now to solidify it. I think to Maya Angelou, she said, if somebody tells you who they are, believe them. I take that to heart, and very often persons who I've seen do some questionable things have proudly described themselves as, me I real heartless, you know. I'm a real dark individual, you know. Nobody, and believe them. And I have also observed some very beautiful individuals say, you know, I am a very good person. I want to see people happy. Believe them. You'll be surprised if you really take the opportunity to review what people tell you. It's amazing what words and actions can reveal. So I want to share with you a Taoist concept. It's a story that I found quite interesting. Maybe. So once upon a time, there was an old farmer. He worked his crops for many years. One day his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. Such bad luck. Oh gosh, they said sympathetically. The farmer replied, maybe. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 3 other wild horses. Neighbors came again. How wonderful! Gosh, you're a real blessed boy, look at you. The old man replied, maybe. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses, was thrown, kilkatee off the horse, break his leg, and the neighbors again came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. Farmer answered, maybe. So the day after, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army. Now, seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. So the neighbors congratulated the farmer on how well things had turned out. Or in closing this story, we should probably say, maybe. There's something that I always keep close to my heart, and that is all things work for the greater good for those who love it, the Lord. Didn't say some things, didn't say most things, didn't say a little bit, didn't say plenty. All. So if we have that concept and we're fully living in that concept, then we have to stay in a consistent state of gratitude and thankfulness, despite untamed emotions that might be untamed, like those horses we spoke about coming into play. We're now able to control our temple, our home, right? And ensure that we're able to not have those emotions rule us. It was 2015, and in January, my nice brand new vehicle was written off. I came out of the vehicle and I said, thank you. Said, Father, Lord God, you know best. I don't know what else you could have been saving me from. So then exactly a month from that date, exactly 1 month, on my merry way, going to work, I'm in an explosion. Came out of the explosion and thank you. Father, Lord God, you know what you do. Who knows what good may come of this? Who knows what you have in store for me? And then I reflected on the other situation, especially coming out of the explosion and seeing how the cars were after the explosion, and seeing that cars were more harmful than anything else, and my vehicle would have been parked there had I had it at that point in time. I said, Father, Lord God, thank you. Insurance took ages to come. And I was walking from here today and laughing to myself and saying, well, you know, at the start of 2015, I did say I wanted to lose weight. This is a great way. Thank you. So I carried on. My brother, who I didn't see for some time, for years actually, I saw him as I was getting into a taxi because I was walking, which I would not have been doing if the other incidents didn't happen. And he said, yeah, Michelle. When I heard that deep voice and I turned behind me, I was like, who's that? Because remember, I didn't see my baby brother for however long, and he was a big man now. We have different moms, right? So he said to me, and he hugged me up, he said, sis, I really love you, you know, I didn't see you for years, you know. And he showed me a picture of me that he carries with him everywhere. And he said, you know, you remember before Daddy gets saved and he was a Christian and thing, how he never used to want to let you pray? And he used to have to lock up with me in a room to pray for me and read my Bible with me. He say, I remember everything with you, you know, and I just want to say, I love you. And when I think of good people, I think of you. And I was so moved by that. And traveling in this taxi for that brief moment with my brother, I said, Father Lord, thank you. Went to work, time passed, it's now April, and I'm saying, okay, but like insurance forgot me. And I remember thinking like I want to get ready and call up and argue with insurance, because I'm feeling like I pay my money for insurance. And then I remembered, wait now, all things work for the greater good for those who love it, the Lord. So I said, Michelle, calm yourself with that Aries fire inside of you. And instead of, I just back, I relax. And I said, Father, Lord God, thank you. Finally, the insurance called me and they said, Ms. Borel, we were taking so long because we were trying to deliberate what we have to give you. And because of the circumstances. Apparently, when your vehicle was written off, it happened just before your vehicle turned a year. So we have to give you back all the money you paid for the vehicle. So now I said, Father Lord, thank you! Your girl real happy now. Went to the bank. Now the bank taking long. Saying, but how the bank could be taking so long? Finally, they called me and they said, Miss Borel, we actually have a loan sale. So what you would have been paying before on the vehicle is even less now. I said, thank you. Then finally, when I went to the vehicle company, I got the vehicle again. But the day that I got it happened to be the day of my birthday. They took long. But when I got it, they said, we were changing the company over from whatever motors to now Massey. And because of that, there's a special in which the points that you would get for buying the vehicle, you get double because it's your birthday. I was like, what? So imagine having all those points on my Massey card. For the entire year, I was eating free groceries and saying, thank you. So I just share that with you because we have to always remember it is difficult, but we have to train ourselves and challenge our perspective and stay in that state of gratitude. And that is really being able to let go and allow the abundance that is there for you to come and take place and be made manifest within your life. So very often, I remember in the open forum we had last week, Sari shared that when Dr. Sasha John Charles Baines spoke of self-worth, she realized that she was watering a lot of other gardens and she needed to water her own. When Marlon and I were talking about this as we were going through the presentation, we want to remind you that it doesn't mean taking care of your garden means you're selfish. It means that what you're doing now is ensuring that by taking care of your garden, you could better help with other gardens, other persons as well, and their dreams. Yes, yeah. Marlon, I know you're going to say something.
Yeah, just to interject, what came to mind is that I think a lot of us basically fall prey to that kind of concept, and you tend to pour out more in others, but I think there's always a balance you need to maintain. So the balance basically comes from you saying, well, yo, hear what? You telling yourself as well, you as well, you are important. And I think the point is, it's good to help others, but also you also need to focus on yourself as well. Yeah? That's just what I wanted to add.
Yeah, yeah. And thank you so much for that, Marlon. I just want to share some words that someone wrote in the chat that I think we always need to remember these things, you know, let people know what they're doing, especially what they're doing right, because then they're able to focus more on that and bring more of it. It was Dosha Charles. She said, amazing testimony, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing. It is important for us to have these quotes and sayings to keep us going, right? So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your feedback on how you felt with it. We all have desires within us, and sometimes we allow them to sleep. Think of it. Think for a moment. We're in a time period, a very sensitive one. The reality is some of us will not be going back to jobs, but we have the opportunity to go back to us because we have been watering those other people's gardens for so long. And know that you have the power within you. I want you to take a look at these statistics. 97% of self-employed professionals say they would never go back to traditional employment. I'm not saying anything is wrong with a job, but I'm saying start to wake up your side hustle. Start to wake up your dream. 62% of US billionaires are self-made, which means that it's very possible that you could be the next billionaire. 26% of entrepreneurs say their biggest motivation for starting their own business was the idea of being their own boss. I want to pull out, though, that 6% of those said they only started their own business because they lost their jobs. But think of the many other persons who may have lost jobs that just decided, I'm going to look for another job, boy. Job, the acronym for it, if you ever heard, is JOB, just over broke. 22.5% of small businesses fail within the first year. After 5 years, that number is then cut in half. On the 10th year, only a third of those make it to the 10th year. I want you to think as well of the businesses that your friends may have, the businesses that your neighbors will have, and ask yourself, do you support those businesses? We need to understand that no man is an island, and we need to support each other. So this is a quote that I always say that I think is very true right now, and that is, when you wake up, wake your dreams up with you. And this came to me because my grandfather would always say, if there's one thing you can do each day, do just one thing that is attached to your dream. One thing. And then contemplating on that, it gave birth to this, which is when you wake up, wake your dreams up with you. Sometimes we wake up and we leave the dreams right there. So as we continue, this is an exercise that I'd like us to do. And if you realize, I already kind of started my part of it with my manifestation. See my little check in the mail? And it only said $9 million because the app didn't allow me to write anymore. I was there like, I am real worthy. It didn't have room on the app for that graphic for me to write some more. So here's the first part of the exercise that I want you to do. The first part of the exercise, I want us to take some time now and let's write on a piece of paper how much money you believe you deserve. Sky is the limit, but write what you believe you deserve.
Michelle, one question though.
Sure.
TT or US?
US boy. Thank you. You remind me to put what currency at the end of my own.
Just checking.
So now that we did that, that's exercise one. And the second exercise, now I want us to pull those mirrors. Your mirror? Get your mirror now.
I don't have my mirror. Use my phone.
And you're going to look in that mirror.
Sure, if you don't have your mirror, use your phone then.
Well, I know most ladies will have a compact mirror. If you don't have a mirror, you can close your eyes and look within. And I want you to look at that mirror. My husband tell me a real vain though. He said, I never see a woman that like herself like you. You always walking in. That's you looking at your legs again? Yes, boy. You're real lucky, you know, boy. So I want you to take a moment, look at yourself in the mirror, And I want you to say, I love myself. I am worthy. I am ready. And we're saying that 3 times. I love myself.
I love myself.
I am worthy.
I'm ready.
I am ready.
I am ready.
I love myself.
I love myself.
I am worthy.
I am ready.
I am ready.
I am ready.
Corey, are you worthy and ready?
Ready and ready, Michelle.
All right. So with that, there's some laws that we need to know, right? So with the universal laws that are often referred to, there are some of them that I wanted to pull out that I think quite important, and that is the law of wisdom. And the law of wisdom is putting into action those lessons that you would have learned. Because very often, if we are not learning those lessons, we go through the pain of the experience again and again and again until we learn and put into action that lesson. And as I started off today, I want to continue with it because Proverbs 19:8 says to acquire wisdom is to love yourself. To acquire wisdom is to love yourself. When we're finished today, I want you to take a moment to write a love letter to yourself and thanking God for yourself. It could be 10 pages. It could be a 4-page letter like Elias sang about. It could be 1 line, but I want you to write a love letter to yourself, thanking God for yourself, for your you-ness and your trueness and your light within. Then is the law of manifestation. And that law of manifestation, what it says to us is that everything begins with a thought. Thoughts are things. In the first session, I tried to share a video with Caroline Leaf, a doctor who deals with neuroscience. And what Caroline Leaf says, she says to us that thoughts are like trees. Every positive thought you see now, light coming from the brain and forming trees from those thoughts. And every negative thought then kills all of those positive trees within the brain. So remember, thoughts become things. So that is the law of manifestation, understanding that everything begins with a thought. As a man thinketh, so too is he. And then the law of gratitude. Oprah Winfrey said, when you are thankful, then you just have so much more to be thankful for. And that's staying in that constant state of gratitude. And the state of gratitude is not just about saying thank you, you know. It's about showing thank you and knowing that you have been provided with so much. And as my great grandmother used to say, and I started saying that and didn't realize that I was probably, you know, receiving some of her in me, because I never met her until a cousin said, Michelle, your great grandmother used to say that all the time. And that was, you never have too little to not give. So staying in that constant state of gratitude, you have to also be very generous and giving. As you give, so too shall you receive. And the law of attraction, we attract what is within us. So even if you find that there's something coming to you that you may not like, you have to ask, what is that teaching you? Is it an aspect of you that you're not tuning into? And you realize that the more you have peace within, you have peace too outside of you. The more you have joy within, the more you have joy too outside of you. Then the law of self-worth. And I found that it was quite timely that we had Dr. Sasha John Charles Baines last week, as she touched on self-worth. And the reason this exercise was so important, and even if you felt a little shame to do it, now take the time to do it after. Look at yourself and remind yourself that you are worthy. You are ready. Because in life, you get what you believe you are worthy of. When it comes to money, you know, there are a lot of persons, especially when they go forward and they're neophytes on this spiritual journey, they believe money is a bad thing because they say to themselves, the root of money, right? Money is the root of all evil. But the quote actually says it is the love of money that is the root of all evil. You see, it is a tool and is there for us to use. You want to help people. You need tools to be able to do so. And in every little thing we give thanks. So remember that you only receive what you feel like you're worthy to receive. I remember growing up, because I was blessed with so much, I felt like I was too blessed. And I specifically remember one day sitting on the steps of St. Francis Girls College, I said, Father, Lord God, I see so much hurt. And I want to experience the hurt too, because I want to be able to empathize with people. Careful what you pray for. I really experienced every single hurt that I was praying about. And I felt like I was too lucky. I felt like I was too blessed. And then I had to understand that certain things that were coming were because I had the thoughts of, oh God, nah, too lucky, you know, or too blessed, you know, so it was going down. And I had to realize, no, I am worthy. I am ready. I am willing to receive. I believe. I have faith. I think one thing I was sharing with Marlon as well, even in terms of relationships, because even our relationships are reflective of abundance. In terms of relationships, because one thing growing up, I would never forget, my father, he was a ladies' man, a fine man with green eyes, with a buff body. He was a gallus. That's what he would say in today's terms, right? And I recalled literally having that thought and not only thinking it, but saying it. You know, the sins of the parents fall back on the children. And I feel I might end up getting a man to treat me just so. And I got that because I thought I deserved that. And I did not stop getting that until I understood, not me. I have no name of any priest that I have killed. I am worthy of goodness. I am love. I am light. I am worthy of someone treating me good and right. And when I changed my thoughts, I changed my world. The law of abundance. In terms of the law of abundance, it's understanding that everything you need, it is right there. It is within you. It is around you. There is no lack. And it all starts with you. Just even if you think about it, the moment you wake up on a morning, you've been given the gift of life. You were able to eat a meal today. Praise God for it. Every little thing, give thanks for it. Even the water you drink, as you pick it up, give thanks for it. Understand that abundance is within you and flows through you. It is understanding that there's no lack. So you don't have to fight for anything. Relax, relax. There's a scripture that I love, and it is, God's desire is that we prosper and be of good health. God's desire is that we prosper and be of good health. So with that, I have my dear friend, Marlon Ambrose. And Marlon is going to be speaking to you firstly about the principles for financial success.
Yes, thank you very much, Michelle. It's amazing how your laws basically are very impactful. I think those laws mentioned there, it basically ties into what I am going to speak about in terms of the principles. And just give a bit of prelude into it, I think those principles are my top 5 principles, I would say, for financial success. There are others, but I think these are my key top 5 actually. All right. Also, just for the listeners out there, I think most of the conversation is going to be, we're going to mention some stuff, I guess, stuff you could probably take notes. I use a lot of quotes typically, so I think Dr. Charles hit the nail on the head. I think quotes form part of my life as well. So yeah, feel free. To start with, I'll just give you a bit of insight. Typically, I remember a situation, I think I was doing a Bible study, right? And I am data driven. So for me, really, anything people say, I tend to want to go research it, look it up, see if it's making sense, get my own understanding, ask my questions, that kind of way. So I think
Analytical finance.
yeah, I think it's a certain trait you probably have that you end up in the field, and now that you're curious or you're fast, audit accounting, right? But anyhow, basically I remember doing this study, and this guy we were basically conversational, and we were discussing, I think, stuff in the Bible, and I think whatever issue we were discussing, he was like, life is simple. He's like, anything you need for life, it's basically in the Bible. And for daily living, let's put it that way. And I can't remember what we were discussing, but I think some issue came up, and I think he was mentioning even there's also rules and laws in terms of even lending people money. That is actually written there.
Yeah.
And I was like, found that to be like, I've never looked into it and, saw that it's actually mentioned. So I took the liberty here in terms of the key points, actually just quote the scripture that relates to my top 5. All right. So yes, it has a lot of wisdom, I would say, especially Proverbs. All right. So one of my top proverbs here is basically, he who has no rule over his own spirit is like a broken down city without a wall. Right? Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28 states that. And in a nutshell, I think it basically highlights the fact of discipline. I think in anything you're doing, could be if you want to change a habit, you want to probably have an abundant life. We just spoke about abundant mentality. In anything, it requires discipline. So you need to discipline your mind, and I think everything starts with your mind. I think most of your slides, I think we mentioned basically from Michelle's slides was, think first. So everything to me starts with your mindset and the appropriate mindset that flows along that path. All right?
As you speak of discipline, Marlon, an interesting bit of statistic. Dan Pena, who I was telling you about when we were preparing for this, Dan Pena actually revealed that more than 80% of the billionaires, not millionaires, billionaires, have some form of military background or training in martial arts or some discipline of that nature. So.
Yeah, and you could see it. I mean, if you listen to a lot of other motivational speakers, even for the gym, I mean, it is be hard sometimes to get your workout, your routine out. Sometimes you reach when you don't want to go, but it also requires a degree of discipline, and you have to train your mind. So a lot of times we want the finished product, but we're not really willing to put in the work. And it really just starts the appropriate mindset.
Yeah.
Right? So let's jump into my top 5 key principles. And for starters, for number 1 will always be, for me, God is the source. I think as much as there's so much at us, I think I wouldn't make it too theoretical, but more keep it back to basics. Most of it we already know, but it's just to reinforce. So number 1, God is the source. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, mentions this. It says, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. All right? And I think this is such a powerful principle, everyday lives, especially when coming to finance. I think we think finance is just business, but it's really just about managing money in simplicity, right? It's just money management. And I like to just share, I think, one experience, and I probably have many of this situation to bring this point out, but I'll just choose one, and to reflect on it, I will say I remember one occasion, Michelle, when I think I had switched jobs, and I moved from one company to another company, right? For good reason, and this company basically told me, well, hey, we can't pay you what you were working for before, right? You're going to have to take a pay cut, right? And as well as I wanted the experience and whatnot, I say, well, okay, it's an okay trade-off. However, apart from that, the issue happened where the pay cut, I think, wasn't enough to substitute for my expenses. And I'll talk on that when I reach to probably budgeting and probably the last slide, right? But basically, I had some expenses, and I said, okay, here's what. This income is not enough to cover my monthly expenses. So what do I do? And I found myself in a little khaki pants, and I started a question and say, okay, what do I do? All right? And a lot of us could probably relate to a situation where this has happened. And you there sitting and worrying, okay, trying to figure out stuff. And I remember, again, another quote that said, I think it's in Proverbs as well, that worry is not for man, all right? And that came to mind, and basically they linked it to a rocking chair in terms of you're always moving, but going nowhere, right? So that came to mind as one quote I also keep close to me as well. And another one usually starts at first is really, be still and know that I am
God.
Right? And sometimes you're trying to figure out how this is going to work out, and God already knows how this is going to happen. And case in point, I think I started to think about what else can I do, because your mind goes into that kind of survival mode. I started to think, I guess you'll probably go into that in a deeper, further down in the presentation, right? In creative thinking. But for me, I started to think, well, okay, what assets do I have that I could use, right? I said, okay, I have a car, I could probably go and work a little PH on the road, supplement my income slightly. I had a walker, I could go and cut some bush, I could start a landscaping company, I might say, well, I'll watch myself in the mirror, I say, well, okay, my body looking good. I might say, all right, Marlon, you could probably, be an instructor, go in the gym, right? Right? So, I mean, I looked at all these examples, and I said, okay, which one to use, boy, to supplement my income? And at the end of the day, I mean, I say, well, okay, if God bring me to this point, well, you get me through it, right? And I think 2 days after, probably about that time, 2 days after, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who I haven't spoken to in like over a year, right? And this girl just basically calls me and say, hey, hi Marlon, how you doing? I'm working this company, we in a little jam here, have a little backlog stuff, and basically I can't do it by myself. And I got the approval to basically hire a consultant. And I had another friend in mind, and then you came in my mind, and I said, you know what, let me ask Marlon, I prefer to work with Marlon because he has helped me so much times in the past. And she was like, just do a proposal and submit it to me and I'll get it approved. And I was like, what is the odds of that situation, that call? Did I expect that call coming at that point in time? No, I didn't expect that. No way. I had no thinking of figuring out, okay, how I going to sort out my problem. And that happened. And to tell you the truth, they have been a client of mine for up to this day. And that extra income supplemented my situation from then to now, right? So I have many situations like that. So I always keep the first point as God is always the source, because a lot of times I think we trying to figure out how, why, what, everything. And the reality is, don't try to figure out everything. God has a way of everything working out itself. All right?
Just do. You know, I think that links to in terms of when I was sharing why I decided to do it on the web in terms of brand you. And I gave you the story in terms of Moses, when God was asking him, what do you have? What's that in your hand? And he said, the staff. And that led to all the different miracles that we heard of in Exodus, with the movement of Jah people, as Bob Marley would say. You know, and the thing about it is, what do you have? Just with whatever you have, do. Just start to do, because as we also refer to the same laws of the universe that we were talking to, one of the laws is that everything moves. Everything has movement. The law of vibration, everything is moving. And in the statistics, if we link with that, the majority of wealthy persons exercise way more than the average person. They're always up and they're doing. And the more you do, the more you build that energy in understanding what the source is, which is God. And what is God? God is love. So it's that love energy, that positive energy. Just keep doing, just moving in faith. When I started at 107, I actually left another radio station where I was having a nice, secure, comfortable salary and whatnot, but I didn't feel comfortable there. And I decided when I was coming off of maternity, I'm not going back. A friend of mine told me, Michelle, speak to the program director. I think they want someone, but it's just one shift a week on a Sunday. I said, okay. I spoke to the program director at the time, and he said, well, Michelle, we're just going to try you out. Now, in radio, if somebody is going to try you out and they don't like you, you don't get your work back on the other job because you already made the decision to go on that station. So I decided I will go on, do what I needed to do on the Sunday, went on, and he said, Michelle, I'm just calling to tell you, they liked what you did, really good, we'll have you every Sunday. So I said, okay. The Monday, he called me. You must be the luckiest person on the face of this earth, because I don't know how it's possible that my afternoon drive announcer just walked off the job and decided to resign. And I had the afternoon drive.
No, I just wanted to add, good point. But I think what comes to mind here is, yes, God is the source, but I don't want it to be a literal thinking in terms of you just sit on waiting and say, well, okay, the email person gonna bring this to you and a checking email, $9 million US, you know. I don't think it works that way. I think it helps build your faith, because you have to do something. I think most times
you have to do. Faith without work is dead.
Agreed. And I think the thinking typically is we tend to go without, that mindset. You know, we most times just say, well, okay, here what God will provide, and we don't want to do anything. We don't want to even act or even think or even put one foot forward.
You
but
have to do.
Most times I think we wait on God and God waits on us. And I think that's a mismatch sometimes we have. Sometimes you hear people with good ideas, good stuff, and you're like, why you don't just start to do with what you have?
Just do.
Know? And, it's like they wait until they have X amount of money to start a business. What says you can't start small? You know, you can't start now. You have no idea what the result will be.
Yeah.
There's no proper plan or nothing really. I mean, you had a plan, but the reality is really, the point is ready to start. And I think that is the biggest challenge, starting for most
In
people.
other words, don't plan to the point in which you don't do.
Agreed, and exactly, right? And I think that is just what I wanted to share in terms of keeping this principle, number one, right? Two, law of giving. Michelle mentioned a couple laws just now there in abundance mentality. All right, I think this one stands out to me. It falls in line, I guess, with the law of attraction. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7, mentions that every man according has he purposed in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. The point here was that God loves when you give. And I think we being able to mirror his actions and walk in his favor, you know, pleases him. So I think the aspect of giving basically is a way of showing honor and basically showing respect. And I think it is fundamental in terms of a key principle because, you know, a lot of times it's good to receive, but I think it's even better to give.
I give.
Because you have no idea how it comes back to you, and it usually does, huh?
Mm-hmm.
It usually does. I mean, you listen to a lot of stuff. Look, recently, I think I heard, I was looking at something, and I think even with the COVID-19, Tyler Perry, I think, paid for how much people's groceries,
Senior
right?
citizens, yeah.
Just the other day in a supermarket, right? I don't know
Yeah.
how much people, but he just decided to give like that. I mean, we see all these celebrities giving, yes, some of them, you know, from a celebrity aspect, the publicity aspect. I'm not going into that, but the point is to give. And I don't want to, as much as we're talking finance, and yes, I'm not saying financially give all the time. I'm just saying sometimes it don't even have to be financially. It could be just give of your time. Time is money, yes. You can give in terms of other things, all right? Just give. I think the concept of, I think one of the quotes I have as well is keep close is to show love is to show God. And I think when you give, you basically show love. If you're a loving person, that reflects a lot from a spiritual element.
Marlon, I think that's your WhatsApp status too, you know.
Oh, thanks for the reminder.
Because I was looking at it the other day and I was like, you see, this is why I called, yeah, that is your status. To show love is to show God.
Thanks for the reminder. Right? So yeah, I think that is number 2 on my list. Moving on, we're going to go to number 3. And the third one is live within your means. I think this is a simple, basic principle I think we keep hearing all the time from going from far back, your grandparents or your parents or somebody would have mentioned stuff like that from even home economics days in school and whatnot, you know, they tell you live within your means. I'm sure we all have heard of it. And I think it's key because I think a lot of times we fall into this trap and we usually compare, and comparing ourselves, our status, our life to other people sometimes puts us in a bad situation. And I remember T.D. Jakes saying in one of his sermons, I think, and it stood out for me because he basically said in a nutshell, in everything, don't complicate your life. Yes, it might a new car might be nice to flash, but that installment you're paying every month might complicate your life, right? So keep it simple and always think about, is this the right time? I'm not saying no go buy your BMW or your Audi, you know, Michelle, eyeing down a Mercedes. Right? So the point is, I'm not saying if you could do it, fine, but sometimes if you can't and you look at your expense and you look at this, it doesn't make sense. Is it really, you know, important now. And I think it goes back to the point of looking back at simple fundamentals like the differentiating the difference between needs and wants. And you might want a new car, but do you need a new car now? And I'm just using that as a metaphor, right? But it goes for anything, all right? And that's just it. In Proverbs, Book of Wisdom, they say again, it states, if thou hast nothing to pay, why should he take away thy bed from under thee? And to me, what comes to mind is credit.
Yeah.
Courts. Right?
Did come in.
Exactly. I mean, we know the US economy, everything goes on
Right.
credit. Everything is a lot of credit. I mean, most time people say, just put on my credit card. You know, the bank automatically understands that concept. And sometimes you don't even have to ask to increase your credit card. They automatically doing it for you. You are like, when did I ask to increase my credit card limits?
Hello. And they always do it at the point in time in which you feel like you pay everything off, you know,
Yeah.
or at the time when you travel and you,
Correct.
yeah. How did I end up there?
Exactly. Right. And I mean, they understand the psychology, I guess, behind it, because you see more money, you say, hey, I have more money to spend. I could buy this now. You're going on my credit card, I'll pay back next month. Then it keeps racking up. And then you realize, I might need to call Marlon Ambrose here, boy, because I might need some financial assistance. You know, and you tend to get a lot of the conversations around, okay, how do you now consolidate debt? And you have all these aspects to think about. When it could have been kept simple, and it's just dependent on the choices we make.
Simplify your life.
Right? Yeah. Right, keep it simple. Number 4, this is a powerful one, I think. Practice to save. Still principle, still fundamental. It stated here in Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20. The wise man saves for the future, but the foolish man spends whatever he gets. It is actually written in the Bible, right? And the point is, when I saw that, I was like, wow, this man wasn't talking shit in this book, right? And it encouraged me to actually to read more of Proverbs, actually. Yeah? You know, I just sat down one evening and I just went to read, trusting. Okay, yeah, onto something here, right? But practice to save from a financial impact is key as well, because I remember a good friend of mine had a situation, and the point is, it's good to see because you have no idea what the future holds, right? And sometimes you could be saving for a lifetime, and all that money you save could be wiped out of your account in seconds, right? With simple illness or disease, critical surgery, medical condition, cancer. The treatment for cancer alone is very costly, right? I mean, yes, it have insurance and people tend to, you minimize risk. That's a whole different conversation, right? In terms of risk management, and that's the point of minimizing risk by having insurance, right? Medical insurance, and, you know, to cover these things, right? But sometimes people get sick and those insurance companies are not going to insure you, especially when you're already sick, right? So you either, to live is either the question comes in line with, you want to live? Not like the tomato where come with me if you want to live. It's like, you want to live, pay the money, right? So the point is, where would the money come from if you didn't really have it put aside, right? So saving is important because you don't know what your savings could be used for in the future. This current timing where a lot of people, nobody's working, all right? Companies taking pay cuts, people out of jobs, all right? How are they surviving, right? If some people who had the fundamentals in place would probably be using the savings as well to keep them afloat until we come out of this situation, right? And this from a global, you know, impact. It's a global situation. So you really don't know, but the point is practice to save, because, you know, the old time people used to say, you know, save for a rainy day kind of way, right? Loss of job, same issue, medical condition. These are serious cases that you realize, thank God I had money put aside to do this, because if I didn't have this, where I was getting money from to do it, right? And so it falls along the top 5, all right? Number 5. I mean, for me, I'm in the financial sector, and you're always talking about budgeting. Always, it's a non-stop topic, hot topic, trending, right? So in Luke chapter 14:28, it says, "For which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it?" So the point is, that is actually written in there. The point is, before you even start something, what does it cost? What budgeting are you doing? And what is budgeting? Budgeting, in a nutshell, basically is a financial tool. It's a tool. It's usually a planning tool, usually in terms of, and we, to keep it simple, use it in our personal life, right? You're not going to construct no high-rise building or anything like that. There's a budget for that also in construction. However, even in your personal life, budgeting is important because you have to plan, okay, and you do some forward thinking we'll talk about after, but you're planning, okay, at this stage, if you have kids, budget because you might want to send your kids overseas or to university. How much do I need to save now? And again, we jump back to number 4, saving, right? So once you budget, you tend to know what are your expenses from a short term to long to make a budget for that. Mm-hmm. But in simplicity, it's basically having your revenue and the expenses, and then knowing, okay, are there any excess that you could probably now reinvest or use for something else and for a good purpose, right?
Marlon, I want to add to what you're saying, because the other part of it is there's some who are doing that now in terms of saving. There's some who are not doing that now, and it may not be off of they're being irresponsible, but they may not have had this information that we're discussing before. So I just feel the need to also say as well that in what you're saying here, it comes back to what we were talking about prior to, in terms of faith. Faith without works is dead.
Agreed.
What came to my mind as well is we walk by faith, not by sight, because as you mentioned, life happens.
Agreed.
And sometimes all finances are depleted, and abundance has partly something to do with finances, and at the same time, it's even beyond finances. It is everything. Abundance is even the air that you breathe. So I want to further highlight that regardless of whatever situation you're going into, or you're coming out of, that the abundance mentality is so important. And these tools Marlon is sharing with you, that wealth of knowledge he's sharing with you, don't feel overwhelmed by it and saying, oh gosh, well, now in this COVID-geddon, what people want me to save. Think instead, despite that, we walk by faith, not by sight. But again, even that scripture in terms of faith connects us to that action, that doing. Walk, do something. But do not sit in sorrow. Sit in silence and thankfulness.
Agreed. I think you're right, Michelle. I think that is truly powerful. I think the mindset, the shift in the mindset, I think a lot of people, and for most actually, it's just, it has to be dug up. Let's put it that way. It's probably buried. It's probably there. It's just a lot of times we probably throw more dirt on it and forget about it. And I think I could relate to a situation just recently. I think, as you mentioned that, I think I had a friend who told me the other day that she heard somebody committed suicide because they couldn't pay their rent.
Yeah.
And I found that so unfortunate, and so it's heartfelt in terms of, wow, you have no idea sometimes the mental health some people are, in terms of, again, another quote you had mentioned before, in terms of don't make a
permanent decision off of a temporary situation.
And this situation is temporary. I would think it's temporary, right? So that is one. I usually say, don't cut away what you can untie, right? That's another quote I use, right? And it was just so sad that this person, I don't know who it was, committed suicide because he didn't have, you know, the assistance, the help, I don't know, the motivation, I don't know, the environment too, I don't know, but, you know, to sit down and get through that situation, all right? So it's never easy, but there's always a way. I usually use positivity and say, if there's a will, there's a way. It's just to figure it out. Yeah. So, yep. So just to jump into a simple budget, and we all know how to budget, I would think. But I only use this as a simple example because I think from a personal budget, I think usually we focus because most of us might be working. So our first line of revenue is usually income. That's usually what you start your budget. And most people tell you, and the theory we learn in budgeting is that a budget starts with what? Sales, right? You start your budget based on your sales, right? And the concept is there, right? And then most times you focus on the expenses. And just one personal budget, a simple one here we have is our expenses. You have income, your salary most times. You might have to pay rent, mortgage, pay for food. You probably have utilities, TN Tech, Flow, B-Mobile. And then you might have other, probably entertainment, I don't know, school fees, other stuff you have to pay for. At the end of the day, you start to calculate how much extra do I have to work with at the end of the month. Sometimes people use the phrase, and I heard somebody say at a time that I feel like I get paid in front of a fan, right? As they get paid, it's like the money gone. And then the concept is that I think it's a mentality shift as well, because just listening to what that person had said is like, he get frustrated and he's like, it's like, I just dropped my paycheck home to my wife and all these bills coming at me. And I basically just paid this, checking off the list and realize, okay, I have probably just a few $100, so better go in the bar. And typically half the time people get frustrated and they say, well, throw the hands up in the air and say, well, okay, what else? This is all I'm making, right? But the reality is that's not really all that you make. And I could refer to, I think I heard Jim Rohn say at a time when he was learning the basics of fundamentals in his business. He was saying, I'm sure you could probably remember, if you listen to Jim Rohn,
all the time.
Probably remember he said something that he said, well, this is all I make. And he just showed the man his paycheck, and the man, Mr. Schofield, was his mentor. And he basically said, he told him, no, this is not all you make, this is what the employer pays you.
Yep.
That's not all you could do. And I found that message to be very powerful because it opens your mind to think bigger. And a lot of times we think small, and we don't think big. So simple, just to add to this, I think this budget stands out, and it's here because I remember reading, I think, this book in the beginning, early couple of years ago, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think, from Robert Kiyosaki or something like that. And I think at the end of the main points, one of the points actually in the book, he mentioned, one of the tips was pay yourself first.
Yes.
And I found that when I started to dig deep into it and just think about it, he was saying that pay yourself first, because before you even get your paycheck, the employer, the government take their money out already in PAYE, right? So he said, if they could do it, why you can't do it? And he said, it could be 5, 10, 15, 20%, what amount you want. His thinking was, and they don't teach this in school, huh? He was like, pay yourself first, because you know, okay, this is what you want to do, so focus on you as well. Then figure out everybody else after. So you might be able to, once you decide, let's say you take 20% of your salary and say, well, okay, that's my money to do what I want to do in the future. Or that's just for savings. So $2,000 are automatically gone from this budget, right? You only remain with 8,000. Could your 8,000 cover these expenses? It can't. It basically short $200 roughly, because we went excess 18, right? But not to get too much calculative and mathematical, but the point is by paying yourself first, you might be short of paying your tea and tech bill, and they probably send you a notice to threaten to cut you or flow on the money, right? And he said what that does to the mind now is when you decide, when you remove your element, it now forces you to think, okay, them hunting me down, reminding me that I owe them, creditors now, in his mind, they are now creditors. How are you going to pay them? Versus the old way of thinking, okay, I pay everybody happy except me. So it focuses the thinking to shift now in terms of, okay, so let them keep breathing down your neck to get paid. You will figure out a way how to pay them. And I think the theory, in terms of what we know from basic budgeting, teaches us mostly to manage costs. Most time, even from my employer standpoint, the first thing you look at is costs. We good at controlling costs. Well, okay, kids, no more flow, you know. We will just take internet cable and we will just take a Netflix package and we will start watching Netflix. It's cheaper. And they started questioning how I could cut my costs now, because the focus always goes into costs. And we all get at cost-cutting exercises. But nobody really talks about how revenue earning exercises. What else could we do to make money or make more revenue? And we limit ourselves by seeing the glass half, looking at that half empty versus half full. Because the focus shifts, because the thinking and the theory we learn is, these are expenses. It comes across as income is fixed, but income is never fixed. Income could grow as well, right? It's just the mindset in terms of how we see things and the factor focusing on how can we create more revenue, right? And again, you spoke on abundance mentality, abundance thinking. It's just to shift your mindset into thinking along that line of growth, right? So that was the point I wanted to make.
Just sharing with you what Dosha Charles said. She says, wow, I really love how there is a Bible verse for each principle, because as was rightfully said in the beginning, persons have the misconception that money is bad and the root to all evil, when it is the love of money. Once we love God and not money, we can do the right things with money. And Javon said, rich dad, poor dad, Robert Kiyosaki. In talking about Robert Kiyosaki, though, just touching on a point that Robert Kiyosaki made, and he reminded people of in his most recent interview that he did in terms of an online interview with a page that says, I love abundance. And he said, with what's happening right now, the famous saying of the wealthy would be, never let a good crisis go to waste. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Because you see, to develop, you have to fill a need. To be able to develop abundantly means that you're fulfilling a need, you're adding value. And there's so much that could be said about that, you know, but never let a good crisis go to waste. And in looking at the word opportunity, it was Dr. Miles Monroe who reminded many that in the Chinese, they don't have a word to describe opportunity, to describe crisis rather. The word for crisis in Chinese actually means opportunity. You know, and if you know Dr. Miles Monroe, he's quite charismatic in how he delivers his seminars and so forth. You know, may his soul rest in peace and God's perpetual light shine upon him. But he was saying, he said, so imagine every time we are seeing a situation, we are seeing crisis. He said, but the Chinaman is saying, opportunity. You know, and just looking at this situation now, with hearing all that's happening and what is being bought and by who, it means that opportunities are being seen. So always challenge your perception.
Yeah,
never let a good crisis go to waste.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Just need to look for it. Yeah. So
yes.
Back to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Marlon. That was very powerful. And I love the same thing that Duasha shared in terms of the principles being connected to parts of God's word, you know, the promises, reminding us of those promises that were made for us and the principles. So in terms of habits of the wealthy, mornings are important. The morning routines of the wealthy consist of, well, 50% of them wake up earlier than the average folk. And by waking up earlier than the average folk, if they have to wake at 8 a.m., they're waking up 5 a.m., right? So they're waking up 3 hours before their day actually starts to put certain things in place to fuel up their day. 76% of them exercise every morning before starting work. And you would find that 80% of them would do either meditation or prayer or both, right? While you would have 100% of the wealthy reading way more than the average person reading about 2.5 hours a week, when they're reading a minimum of 5.5 hours a week. Warren Buffett reads 500 pages a day. There are some billionaires who actually read a book a day. 100% of them read, and reading is part of their morning ritual even before they start work. Also, personal happiness is of utmost importance to them. So that in itself is an abundance mentality. Personal happiness, joy. That's why we started off with our song, I love myself better than I love myself, right? And they would do a personal project even before they started their work day. And it reminded me of why I wanted to start Brand New, in terms of I was starting in the morning doing what I love, which is radio, and then going into the corporate world. So by the time I get into work, I'm like, good morning, hi, how you doing? Must be the night fever, you good? And I am having a great day already, while everybody else like, well, why is she smiling? So morning, go, you all smiling, huh? But personal happiness, the reason so many aren't filled with that joy is because they didn't start their morning off doing something that they love. And it's the same thing that Sari said in terms of watering your own garden. Take some time to water your own garden, and the best time to water plants is in the morning before the sun come up. Just saying. So morning routine, spending time with loved ones, your family, before they even start work, guess what? They're spending time with their family. And they found that breakfast, it's quite important for them, getting their family together and ensuring that they're spending their time with their children, their mother or their father, those that they love, their support system. And they're always what? Because they're disciplined, they're blocking energy, like bad vibes, negative people, and blocking that away from them. They're very much on their circle, their bubble, that bubble that they're saying that we must live in now in the times of COVID-19 and stay in our space. They've been having that bubble. Starting the day by spending time with their spouse. Now, family, yes, but then their spouse. That was also very important to them on starting their day. And also planning, not only yearly, monthly or weekly, but daily. So before the day started and they went into doing anything, they would plan their day out, right? As we continue to look at habits of the wealthy, we looked at how important it would have been for them to spend time with their spouse. 86% of the wealthy are married. 86%. And that ties into the discipline that Marlon would have been speaking about. It means that they have no fear of commitment. They have no fear of the risk, right, of being in a relationship, but they would have taken calculated risk, right? 65% of them are still in their first marriage. I guess that's why they're wealthy. People would normally say cheaper to keep up. They would have done their budgeting.
Michelle, I'm wondering if when you said that, what came to mind is I'm wondering if the time they got married has something to do with it. Right? Right? Because that might be a factor too, eh? Right? But just not a straight.
I might have to call my husband now. Babe, am I still here because it's cheaper to keep her? And they also generated their own wealth. 80% of them generated their own wealth within their lifetime. And not no mommy, no daddy, no gold spoon in their mouth, somebody give them something. 80% of them, the money they have, they worked hard for that. And also, the majority of them, 66%, the number one career of all would have been, they had a career in sales. And they said that it would have taught them so many vital tools and important lessons in being able to generate that success, that wealth, that abundance, right? Other habits and thought patterns would be believing that they must have multiple streams of cash flow, multiple streams of income. And think of it as a river. Funny enough, my husband said this to me some time ago, years ago actually. And he woke up and he said, God told me that when it comes to money, it has to be like a river. There's several streams all flowing into that one river. And I was like, powerful. So it's interesting in researching all of this. He's on to something. And the average of 2.5 hours a week on social media. You know, there are some people you see on social media all the time. Myself, I'm usually not on social media, and I made a very deliberate response in terms of going onto social media. And it's just because I found there were so many negatives, and I felt, you know, in this time that could be perceived as a dark period, now is the time to shine your light. So I say, all right, I'll post my little funny videos, because these are things by myself. In my family, we always dressing up and doing all sorts of different quirky things and having fashion shows and singing. And I mean, we good, we happy. And I said, it's time to share some of that joy and light so others could feel happy and realize, be a little clownish sometimes. You know, seriousness is ego, right? Be a clown. It's okay to clown around ever so often and have fun, bring that joy. And that's why I intentionally decided to be a little more active on social media than I would be, because normally I spend no more than about a half an hour, because any post you would see from me prior to this would be scheduled. And it would just be something I sit down, schedule, and that is up. And I devote no more than a half an hour a day, if so much. But it's because of this time period, I said, let me go a little more, see if people could smile a little, you know? Less than an hour of television daily, if so much even. What are they doing? They're reading. And they also work more than the average person. I was sharing with Marlon before this as we were planning. I said, Marlon, growing up, my grandparents never allowed me more than a half an hour of TV a day. On weekends, I was allowed a movie on a Saturday and a movie on a Sunday. And if I was by my mom, I was happy because I got to watch way more TV. But guess what? She did not have a satellite dish like my grandparents had. So, you know, it's only so much Mastana Bahara girl could take. 12 and under, especially when at that age I know already about Nickelodeon. And at this point in time, they really say how you train a child, you know, train a child, and from those ways the child would not depart. Listen to me, watching TV is a struggle. I cannot devote my time to TV because that was so embedded in me. I always find myself picking up a book to read instead of watching TV, you know? So sincerely, really and truly, it is a habit that if you didn't have grandparents like I had to only give you a half an hour a day, and my cousin laughing because she knows it's true. And anytime they would go out, I would try my utmost best to sneak TV in by bribing other members of the household. But at the end of the day, that is just in me. And I never thought that them instilling that habit in me from such a young age, it just stayed with me. So things like writing and reading, I would just always find myself doing. And this, again, ties back into what we have been saying consistently since the start of this. Be generous. And it doesn't surprise us that millionaires are often very generous. The life of the famous and the wealthy. You know, some of them do it for tax breaks. Yes, duh. But often it's not. One Swiss millionaire, rather, for instance, he flew to Israel to give $5,000 in cash to a waiter at a Jerusalem cafe who foiled a Palestinian suicide bombing. So among the most generous millionaires are those from North America who are, according to Merrill Lynch Cap Gemini report, 2 to 5 times more likely to give to causes they value than their European counterparts. So what's more important than gold? I guess a heart of gold. And then you get gold.
I think, Michelle, the only, when you said this slide, basically, what comes to mind, honestly,
Yes.
sorry to cut you, is Scrooge McDuck.
Oh, with the gold.
Right, because I'm wondering, I'm not asking, I don't even know, was he generous? That's the question. I'm trying to remember.
Well, wasn't he taking care of his nephews? I mean, he might have been a Scrooge, but he was still taking care of his nephews. Maybe that's why he had.
Probably.
He was minding other people's child.
Probably. Probably. But yeah. But you're right. I think most people who, I think it falls in line with, I guess, the concept of, as I mentioned before, in terms of one of the laws and the principles, and you spoke about the laws, but it comes down to just showing honor. I think it's ready for
Yes.
for respect. It's a way to give back and appreciate what they have. So I think they do it as a way of thanks.
Yes.
Thank you. And I think it's a good habit to instill and to practice in what we people can.
Yes.
And also I think yes, it's used for a successful financial habit. But I don't want to limit it in terms of how to put it, boy. I'm just trying to say that, that success is relative. So,
it's a state of mind.
So I'm thinking that sometimes, really being generous, again, we're talking about not always giving financially.
It's a given in so many other ways.
Correct. So
because what touches me now at this point in time, how they say teach a man to fish and he has fish for a lifetime,
right,
as opposed to just giving him fish. And if we think of Robert Kiyosaki, for example, and he spoke of his rich dad and his poor dad, the rich dad, what he really gave to him was his time and his knowledge.
Correct.
And I was sharing with you earlier in terms of what my grandfather gave to me. Now, everyone thought that he left some secret stash for me somewhere, and he did. But the secret stash he left for me was within my heart and my mind, because what he gave to me was his knowledge. As we move on, though, habits of the wealthy, I look at benefits of generosity. It lowers blood pressure. You have happier work life, increased self-esteem, and less depression. Why? When you're actually giving, it releases oxytocin. So you're feeling happy and it lowers your stress levels, and in turn, you live longer, right? So those are some of the benefits. But I shouldn't have to prod you to give. You, of yourself, within you, should have that desire. However, there is a magic behind blanketing the good that you do and not allowing your own lips to praise you. And when you give, you're not giving to seek praise from anybody, but you're giving with the understanding of, as Marlon shared, the first principle is knowing where your source is from, and our source is God. All good things come from the Lord. So our source is God. So in that giving, it's an understanding as well, and a humility in knowing that all you have is yours, but it's still not yours. It's everybody's. We are one. And that is why it is so important in understanding, especially at this time, to give of your light to others in the world, because we're sharing a group mind. So if everyone is thinking of abundance and wealth and joy and happiness, guess what? It's only going to add to you, because it is one. It is all one. And even us meeting here on a Saturday, there is so much power in that as well. That as well is the law of fellowship. And it speaks very potently in the Bible, where two or more are gathered in his name, he is truly present. You know, there's certain laws and principles, and there's a power in this. At the end of all of this, you all are going to leave with something. And guess what? I leave with something too. This is a win-win situation.
I mean, honestly, Michelle, I had no idea that I really didn't know that given lowers your blood pressure. Seriously, just looking at this slide, I am like, I could see a couple of my friends I could take this slide and send it to.
Yeah.
And they need to give me some money because I actually look at one person right now who's on the session.
Marlon, I was going to ask you to give a little bit more actually. Yeah?
Right? So I probably might need to borrow your slide and send it to some people.
You know, but feel happy to give, you know? And it's not something you need to talk about. It's like, what is usually done with a treasure? It is buried. It is buried. A treasure is buried for somebody to find. Your giving is your treasure.
Michelle, if I may interject as well.
Sure, of course. Go right ahead, my darling.
Thank you. I mean, we're talking about this as a financial perspective, but as Marlon rightfully said even before, this could also mean non-financial in terms of volunteer work and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And you wouldn't believe the kind of partnerships that you would develop once you start to do volunteer work, the people that you meet, the clients or potential clients that you may tend to have or may be able to get in the future. There was even a quote somewhere in the Bible that says the same thing, that if you give, you shall receive. And I think that this also is linked to that somehow, or it is linked to it, not somehow, but it is linked to it. So there could be several benefits, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be financial.
Correct.
What you're saying is so potent. I'm sharing this with you all. I'm not putting any names. Don't ask me for no names. I'm not saying where, when, who, what. But I'm reading for you all what I got, leaving out names. I was brought to tears and I cried so much. And if I cry now, I will look a little bit weird because you'll see all my mascara and stuff running. But anyway, let's hope I don't cry. But it touched me in a big way. A very sentimental, eh? So the person said, this is our story. I remember the story you gave of the Chinese restaurant owner. You called him up and wanted to meet to discuss how you could help his business. Somewhere in 2007, I got a similar call from you. At that time, the person states where they were working and whatnot. And they said, we met at my office, and what blossomed thereafter was genuine friendship. It was my first time meeting a radio personality in the flesh. I was super excited. I knew the voice well because I was an avid listener of 1077. Our first meeting was divine. Your smile lit up my office and your warm personality captivated me. You didn't sell me radio. You sold me an opportunity to step out of the shadows and develop a skill I had been sitting on for years. 6 years prior to us meeting, I completed a broadcasting course. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but never had the opportunity to implement it in my career. The advertising schedule that we crafted for the place where the individual worked, the opportunity, right, came through the advertising schedule that was crafted, and it involved a number of pre-recorded ads. Guess what you did with your kind, amazing, and nurturing self? You created an opportunity for me to experience writing and voicing commercials myself. You were a phenomenal coach. I got lessons in diction, pronunciation, breathing techniques, etc. And it didn't stop there. You went with me to the studio and stayed for the recording, providing tips and advice throughout the production process. You didn't stop there. You told me I was good and you helped me become better. You even gave me bonus spots. And you said, girl, get used to your voice on the radio. I said in the beginning that what we had was genuine friendship. Only friends invite each other to their homes at Christmas time. My family has been to your home, met your children, husband, etc. I'm not going to give too many details in this because that's their personal info, right? But what they said is that at a point in their time, life happened, right? So it was distant. I'm not sharing anymore because that's their personal stuff. But they said, from a distance, I spent time with you on the oasis, silently drawing solace, inspiration, and motivation from you during a very dark time in my life. Years would pass before we saw each other again. Fast forward to 2018, I think, and I'm at the station to promote something, and I inquired if you were there, and they said yes, but no one was able to find you. Eventually, I started my walk back to my car only to hear you in the distance calling my name as you pelted out of the front door, big belly and all, and I received the most soul-lifting, energy-transforming sisterhood hug I have ever been gifted with in life. I felt like the years just evaporated. There was no more distance and only love and light and friendship, the sacred things that make you divinely Michelle. And this, my dearest friend, is our friendship story. I can be honest with you to tell you that I didn't remember I did that. But it was such a beautiful reminder because many times you could be doing something and you're just doing you, you're being your you and experiencing your you-ness in whatever you do. You know, that peace, that joy. And you don't know what you're doing. And very often, doing good is a very lonely road. And I shouldn't say it's lonely, it's a very alone road. But you're not lonely once you have the presence of God with you constantly and you're reminded of that. But it's a very alone road, but not necessarily a lonely road. So you may not have many persons acknowledging that. But strangely, within this time of the pandemic, every day I seem to be getting more and more messages of that. And it is a consistent reminder for me to say to you, be you in all that you do. And as my grandfather would have richly shared with me, he always said, be you. Imitation is suicide. The most generous thing I think you could do is being generous to yourself in allowing you to be you, regardless of the difficult period you may have in being able to achieve that. And I just think of the butterfly in becoming a butterfly. It must have been quite difficult to shed being a caterpillar.
Well done. Well said. Forward thinking. Okay. Jump into me. All right, Michelle. Thank you. Basically, I just wanted to touch base in terms of forward thinking, right? And that seems to be the theme more at me these days. So I'm just going to share a bit of where my mind is at when I was thinking along for this message. Let's put it that way. I think Michelle just mentioned a couple of things that resonated with me in terms of what I'm about to speak on. And it falls in the line of thinking down the road, right? And I'll share something with you. I think like what stands out for me in terms of forward thinking is basically like what I'm appreciative of is my home, right? And this is personal, but for instance, I'll give you a bit of history. My grandfather had like about 9 children, I think, back then, right? And I used to hear my dad say he never really spent time with his father because he was always working. He was never home. He not around because every day he working 6 in the morning, he going to work every day, Sunday to Sunday. I don't even know if he was ever home, all right? But I never really knew my grandmom, but she had died before him, or before I was born, I think. And at the end of the day, he basically worked majority of his life, all right? However, when he died, he basically had assets. He had properties, probably about 6, 7 properties all over the place. He left it for his kids. And at the end of the day, I benefited from it because I don't have to pay rent, right?
Amen.
And that is, and I know Misha, you probably will touch on the appreciative aspect probably in another session or what, but that was me being, I always think about that as being appreciative to my grandfather for that. Because he, even though he could have squandered the money, he could have do something, he could have spent it on whatever. He basically invested it in stuff that benefited us generationally. So I think that comes to mind. And I think, I could see back then, and I have Corey here could testify to that. He's on the session as well, because just a bit of insight, Corey and I, best friends ever since from school. And I can remember, I think back then, and Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, I remember when we were about 16, 15 could be, and I think it was a big craze that when he used to study by me, and we used to study, had a little study group, and people, and other friends was, I think we were like amazed, like, wait now, the concern was, wait now, you have your own place? At the age of like 15, 16, that was like a big rank. I couldn't drive yet. I didn't have my own car, but I still was on par, right? It was a big thing. And I never saw it until probably now that, the benefits in terms of what I gained from my grandfather, forefathers before, and how probably we should think down the road. So that was just my experience and my thinking in terms of what I'm going to speak on. So I think what I wanted to just touch base on is just a simple exercise, like what comes to mind when we think about forward thinking. In other words, just in other sense, generational thinking, right? And quickly, just off your head, what really comes to mind? Just 3 keywords you can think of that probably comes to mind when you hear forward thinking, generational thinking. What comes to mind first? And just take two minutes, or just speak it out. I probably will ask Michelle first. Michelle, what comes to mind? Forward thinking. What comes to mind for you?
Forward thinking. I think of being unique, being different, creative. Thinking in terms of the next generation. What's next?
Corey has the opportunity, and he's right. Opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. The point is, I think a lot of times as much as we think in the current situation or current landscape, I think we also need to think of the landscape beyond legacy. And Genevieve has legacy as well.
Yes.
And coincidentally, Genevieve, you hit the nail on the head because I'm actually going to speak on legacy right after. And for me, I had 3 points basically. And one for me was really vision, right? So for me, really, we spoke a lot.
Innovation, about, someone has as well.
Right, Dorsha has innovation, and she is right. It's being creative, it's thinking down the road. Technology, a lot of stuff. It's the new thing. What else can we do? All right, and that's how ideas come about. And I think Misha, you're going to speak on ideas as well, right? So yeah. All that falls into place. But for forward thinking, what comes to mind really was, for me, vision first. And I think you have to have the vision first before you bring it into fruition, right? There's a lot of quotes on this as well. As a man thinketh, so is he, right? There's a couple others that everything starts with your mind. It starts with your thought process, right? So it has to be, you have to see it. And then most times they tell you, put it on paper, right? So if you see it every day, your mind, your subconscious basically reflects on it and it becomes ingrained in you. All right. So for me, I think having the vision of what you want to do, what your focus is, I think after you have the vision, everything aligns itself with that vision. And it's in anything you're doing already, from starting a business to, I don't know, you want to do something simple, plant a home garden because you want to feed whoever. You have a vision to start a non-profit or charity. You know, how you're going to do it. Everything starts with that thought. And that's why vision is so important as well.
Job Millington, for your 3 words, he said safety, health, and prosperity.
Safety, health, prosperity. Well done, Job. Good words. Right. Second, I was more leaning towards purpose. I think vision aligns with your purpose.
Yeah.
And I think from where I sit, my belief is that we're all created with a purpose. I think the key is really finding that purpose. Some of us find it early, some find it late. Some people sometimes never find it, right? But the point is I think we all have a purpose. And sometimes you can relate to that because some situations happen and you realize, like in my situation, was the odds that I get calling me at that point in time? Did she have a purpose?
Yeah.
Right? I have a friend recently, I think I visited probably the last 2 days, who I haven't seen in a while. And every minute we playing cat and mouse trying to link up. And, COVID-19 in the place, stay at home, social distancing, but whatever, you're taking a chance at your mask up and you're going, right? And I think after I spoke with her, and I didn't really plan to speak at all. I just went to pass, dropped some watermelon, and say, okay, I'm passing through there. My thinking is, you don't visit old friends without a gift. So I saw the fruit man, and I saw some watermelon. I say, I'm not going empty-handed. I'm going to buy some fruits. I buy a watermelon, and boom, boom, sat down there talking. And I think after the conversation, she actually tapped me and said, I was really glad to see you. There's not much people who could really give me some ideas and whatnot. And my point is, sometimes you don't know the impact you're making on other people. So like in your situation, Michelle, with the advertising and the marketing aspect, which you just spoke on, I think the key word there is impact, right? And I think for me, like these days in my quiet time, and it's good to have a little meditation. They say 10 minutes of meditation a day is usually good. Could be more.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's good to have a quiet moment just to listen. And it helps build a spiritual relationship as well. And these days I'm more aligned with purpose. So I'm more thinking of, okay, at this stage in my life, what do I want to do? And I'll touch on this after. But I think at the end of the day, every idea I had, every thought process, and I was sharing that with my friend, and I think it did wonders because something she's working on as well, I think resonated when I mentioned a couple of stuff. And she basically was on the right path to what she wants to do.
Yes.
So the point is sometimes God sends people at the right time, something to help you. Probably I was a blessing. I don't know. Right? And I think purpose is truly important because it aligns with what purpose I think God has for you. And what else and what you're supposed to do.
Dr. Miles Monroe, I really enjoyed Dr. Miles Monroe. He said, you can be fired from your job, but you cannot be fired from your purpose.
Agreed. I think I heard that session as well with him. And that was truly inspiring yet insightful and impactful, I would say. I think his words are truly commendable in terms of shifting the thinking, right? And I think because of that simple word, impact, I think it's a really powerful word because I think now you're trying to figure out what impact can I make in other people's lives in terms of what you want to do, and all that falls into purpose, right? Genevieve, keyword as well as mine was legacy, right?
Yes.
And at the end of the day, it flows into legacy. I think legacy is also a powerful word because a lot of times we know, well, the belief is you're not going to be here forever. That's reality. And quite recently, perspective comes into play, especially when you hear of some bad news, let's say, of somebody who you knew or know at your same age recently dies, or just out of the blue dies. And that happened recently with me. I had a friend share with me that a good friend of hers, same age as us, went to the hospital, had some surgery, did something, I don't know what caused it, and went back to the hospital, and eventually after they heard she died. And I found that was really shocking. And as much as you care about a lot of stuff, sometimes some things hit home hard and you realize, whoa, that could have happened to me. And when things like that fall in your garden, you tend to change, it changes your perspective, it changes your thinking, it thinks differently. You start to think legacy. And I think as much as we focus on a lot of things, we also need to focus on what legacy are we really leaving, what we plan to do. Some questions come to mind, like, what do we want to be remembered for? What impact are we making on others? You know, what do we want to leave a legacy of?
As Genevieve just wrote, she said, Miles Monroe says, never confuse your work with your job. Your job is your career. Your work is your life's assignment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once you find that, I mean, nobody could take that away, right? So I want to I just, those things just came to mind in terms of how we see things. And I think a lot of the thought process also has to flow in terms of, you know, generational thinking. You know, what are we leaving for the generations to come, right? What impact are we making in other people's lives to help with the generations coming? It don't have to be financially here. It could also be with the environment. A lot of times, simple things as recycling, you know, or how we deal with certain things. You know, we don't care about the environment. We don't care people throw rubbish here. They don't have the discipline to do that. And the thinking is just not there. But again, keyword again, discipline and mindset. Yeah. But if we think along that road and stop thinking about the selfish thinking of myself, me, and sort of focus on what can I contribute and what impact I could probably make on the next generation and what else as well, right? I think that was fundamental and key, right? And I remember listening to actually a session with TD Jakes. I think he was launching this book called SOAR, SOAR, right? And the interviewer asked him, I mean, there's so much books out there now about entrepreneurship, about business, about this, about that. What motivated you to write this book now about SOAR? And he responded by saying that, he said, yes, there's a lot of books that could help a lot of people, but he just found at the right time. He said right now, in the state of how the US economy is going right now, he said that he thinks a lot of people need this more than ever. And he said that now you're seeing a lot of older people in retirement back out working. And they're working in the restaurant businesses because their retirement income can't even pay their living expenses. So they have to go back out and work. And he said, and what jumped at me, I think, from that session, he said something really, really inspiring and inspiring. He said, in each of us, there is an old person. Don't let that person down. And I think he was linking it to the timing that people decide to hustle.
Yeah.
He was basically saying that people saying, well, they sit on the couch and they're tweeting and saying, you know, well, on my grind. And they ain't moving yet, they're just tweeting like, you know, they're busy. And he said the reality is, down the road, when they turn 45 and 50, now they realize, okay, I'm ready to go and make my money. I'm ready to start my business. And he said that age is too late because your mind is able, but the body is not ready.
Very true. You know, like I always remember the mentality, at least for my husband and I, it has always been work hard while you're young so you could relax while you're old. Earl Nightingale, in his introduction talk that he had on the record from years ago, Earl Nightingale, he said, ask 100 25-year-old men if they want to be successful, and they will all say yes. But then check them back when they're 65. Only one would be rich. 4 would be financially independent. 5 at 65 will still be working, and 54 would be broke. The others would be dead. And when you really think about it, that means that only 5 out of that 100 make the grade.
Yep. And it comes down to a lot of times we talk, yeah? A lot of times the concept, the quote is talk is cheap, is true. Because a lot of time we talk, we want to do that, but it's really just wishful thinking. But half the time, we ready to put the work in, we really don't put action to it. Yeah. So I think, so those 3 things really is what I wanted to share. Just to get out towards thinking in terms of a different mindset and different perspective, and just a new way of thinking, things probably we didn't think about. I mean, the reality, I don't think about dropping dead tomorrow, God forbid, right? But the point is, I remember from early stages in the beginning, I remember a life insurance agent, one of my friend's father, told me, you should have insurance, you know, that time you're young. But he had a point. The point of insurance, he said life insurance don't benefit you. Never. It never benefits the person. You dead and gone. It benefits the others who you leave behind, right? Because paying for funeral expenses, who has that cost to bear, right? And key things like, that's why there is life insurance, right? So your loved ones could be provided for when you're gone, all right? So that's the thinking. A lot of times we might discredit things like that or put it on the side, but it is important to think along the lines of that as well, right? So just the point of generational thinking I wanted to share. Yeah.
As Russell Simmons says, he says, I hustle not for my first name, but for my last.
Yep. So, yeah.
Sir, you wanted to say something?
No, I just like that point that you just said.
Oh. You know, so as we talk on legacy as well, especially in the session that we will be having with Narda, who is a soul therapist, I wanted to touch on that session in us looking at history and the importance of our family history, right? So we're going to be working on that in the session that we will do with Narda Mohammed, which is in the 6th session. So next week, we're focusing on fitness, and the week after, our soul session. And part of that, we'll look at history and the importance of appreciating our ancestors.
Proverbs chapter 16, verse 1. I think in closing, well, in this slide actually, just want to make reference to this phrase, this verse. We can make our plans, but the final outcome is in God's hands. I think as much as we could plan, as much as we could think down the road, most times, sometimes, not everything you plan for actually happens. And I think as much as we could plan, we also have to leave an element of surprise and an element of, well, you know what? God has better plans. If it doesn't work according to your plan, just say, okay, God has a better plan in store.
Genevieve says, man makes plans and God laughs.
True.
However, Proverbs, it tells us to plan, eh? So at least we have a plan, but we know the main man has the divine plan.
Right? So yeah.
Thank you so very much, Marlon. That was very inspiring and motivating so that we could do, because as we understand and everything, it's about getting up and doing, right? Putting that passion in action. So identifying great ideas. First, if there is a desire in your heart, it is there for a reason. So how do you identify a good idea or a great idea? You thought it, right? And the thing is, that's a seed. We would not know what fruit that seed could bear unless you water it. So faith, it's believing you can and doing what is necessary to act on it. Fear, it's being uncertain and having negative emotions, regards to it. That's running. And I think of effort and struggle. In all things, we must put forward effort. We must do. Because you're realizing even in scriptures on faith, it's all attached to do. Faith without works is dead. We walk by faith, not by sight. It never said sit in faith. It said we walk, action, effort, do. We walk by faith, not by sight. Right? Effort, we all have to do that. By the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread. So we must put forward the effort. But what makes it a struggle is when we have negative emotions concerning the effort that we must put out. So in looking at faith, so just quickly looking at a faith-based mentality in terms of letting this idea grow into good fruit, that's your worship. That's your work. You compliment. Whereas the fair side of it, you worry. The fair side of it, you complain. So in everything, there's a choice. We can choose things that lead to life, breathing life into that great idea, that desire of your heart, or we could choose the death side of it in which we don't allow it to grow. What are people saying? Many great ideas persons have said, that's something real crazy, you have to be mad. Or that's a waste of time, you know, or that's not going to work. But for every great idea, there has always, in most of them, there was always somebody saying it couldn't work. And many times, as Les Brown would have said, his mother said to him, when he was at a point in his life in which the dream house he finally got for his mother, he made a mistake and they were now being put out of the house, losing that house. And they had to go back where they grew up. And he was embarrassed to see the neighbors putting down his head and whatnot. And his mother told him, you lift your head up. So he had to lift his head up. And she reminded him that you're going to fail your way to success. The average wealthy person would have failed, would have been bankrupt 3.5 times before actually achieving success or wealth or abundance. And many times we have to go through that failure because why? We're not utilizing the wisdom of the lessons we would have had before, those painful lessons. We put it aside. We don't let go of doubt. We don't let go of, fear. And because of that, we have to fail and fail to get it right. And we pour ourselves in with the right stuff, the good stuff that could really let us move forward and achieve what is there for us to achieve. So in identifying great ideas, it's there, right? What makes it a great idea is the positive effort that you put into it.
Michelle, I just want to add what comes to mind as just reflecting on these slides here, identifying great ideas, right? Well, two things actually, if I can remember. One is I remember I had a cousin, right? And same name as me, strangely, probably we have similar traits, thinking about it now. But anyhow, the point is, he basically had said...
Hold on, let me make sure. There's not one of those stories in which somebody says somebody else and it's really them.
You will be the judge of that, right?
Okay, all right. You had a cousin, a listener.
Right?
Wink, wink.
And he basically was telling me, well, he said, don't share your ideas with people. Basically, be careful who you share ideas with, in a sense. Right? And I think that was the message I think really he meant, as opposed to outrightly just don't tell other people about your idea, right? I think just to add to it, I think there's some wisdom in that as well, because I think at the time he had an idea, I think if I remember correctly, and the point of somebody stealing his idea, I think he was a victim of that.
Right.
I think his mentality after changed in terms of, well, you know what, I'm keeping my idea and I'm not sharing it with anybody else. Let's put it that way. However, I think when I look back on it, for me, really, I always believe, I think that one, I think the wisdom or the knowledge and the guidance is really be careful who you share it with. I think the right people you share ideas with. And I think that's where environment comes in. And your right network and your right people who for you will fuel your idea versus the negative people thinking will take away, because they would say, well, okay, because I can do it, why you should be able to do it? And that's negative thinking. I think that's the tear down aspect of why people might say that. Also, I just want to share, I remember listening to something, and I think it might be the same, might be probably Marlon Monroe himself, I think. And I think the point was, if that is your purpose, no matter what, could have 5 people in business doing the same things.
It's not going to be like you.
It wouldn't be how you're supposed to do it.
Correct.
And I think the way you're supposed to do it is what God had in mind, how you're supposed to do it, or the impact you're supposed to make. So the point is, really and truly, nobody can take that element from you. So I think that belief and that mindset of thinking is that you're unstoppable. You basically can do it. Nobody have the tools in them to do it how you can do it.
Yeah.
I think it's key also in terms of having a great idea.
As Dr. Miles Monroe also said, as he was talking about ideas and, you know, speaking things into being and whatnot, he also said, you better call your friends up and tell them about that idea. Tell them about that plan. And you know why he said that? He said, because now you have to do it. It ties you to what you would have said. That brings us more or less to the close of this session. And we will be having next Saturday, LaToya Hamilton, as we focus on fitness. On the 16th, we're going to focus on our soul session, in which we talk about our ancestors, appreciating them, and also delving deeper into the start of the soul topic we had, which would have been last week. We're going to go even deeper into that. Narada Muhammad is a soul therapist, and she lectures around the world and does various sessions with many. So I'm very excited about that. So now, opening up the forum, if you have any questions, if there's some feedback you wish to offer, if there's something you wish to share, any further information that you wish to add to anything that we've spoken about, or maybe questions that you have and you want more information from us, it is an open forum now.
Have anything to share? I just want to say thank you for this amazing, powerful, impactful session. I didn't know that you guys were going to be so philosophical and deep, but I definitely took away a lot of, it was very eye-opening. Yeah, I just love the delivery from Michelle and the financial expert. That's all.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thank you, Leanne. Leanne, like Javon, was on from the very first brand new. Leanne, Javon, and Marlon were on every brand new session. And I definitely know, as Wayne Dyer says, there's a secret in the early part of each morning that is waiting for you to hear it. You know, so let's see what secret that would be revealed to you in the early part of the morning tomorrow.
Nice. Very good.
Let me know how that goes for you at 3 a.m.
Thanks, Michelle.
All right, you all have a blessed one. And
Michelle, thanks for having me.
thank you.
Most welcome, Marlon. Most welcome. Thank
Marlon,
you, man.
thank you so much.
Thanks for listening, guys.
And, you know, as I want to say, though, before Marlon goes, I find his approach and everything, as the word says, the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yes.
It is astounding for me to know that Marlon is of such high caliber in terms of the titles that he would hold and what he does. And despite that, he is very humble always in his approach and very mindful of how he deals with people. He really, truly is an example of showing God's love. You ask him for his time, he's always willing to give of it. And when I think of the meek shall inherit the earth, I think very much of Marlon and how he is with people despite the brilliant success that he has achieved and continues to achieve. You know, like for example, as he was talking about supplementing his income, remember his position would be that of a financial manager. That is a high role in any company. And you're hearing what he's saying? He still has the humility to get up and do and have a waka. Okay. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And I
there's no
always,
disgrace in labor.
no shame in making an honest dollar. No shame in making an honest dollar. You know?
Thanks for that, Michelle. But I think that falls in line. I think with human nature. I think even when you start in business, because I think that stood out with me when I formed a company, and you realize the key thing is really pride.
You okay, guys?
Love and light,
Bye.
man. Y'all have a
Love and light.
Love and light. Bye, guys.